Hey everybody, good Saturday morning, top of the morning to you. Hope you're doing okay today. Man, it is pretty here in Atlanta this weekend. I can already feel the pollen getting started. It's just going to be like a beautiful spring weekend here in Atlanta. But anyhow, good Saturday morning, everybody. It's 7:35. I'm wide awake this morning. Let's do the morning post this morning. I could buy myself a girdle and change my name to Myrtle. I have always found humor and laughing the easiest way to get through life, to get through hard times, dark times, good times. The first time Sammy and I took a yoga class together over in Inman Park, there was a lady that kept breaking wind and making these loud sounds. Well, of the 20 people or so in the class, Sammy and I just kept laughing so hard that we finally just had to get up and leave the class. Like two little schoolboys that don't know how to control ourselves. But y'all, it's hysterical. Like we're laying there in a room with like 20 people, and this lady, I guess, you're doing all this stretching, and then just it's kind of quiet, and they got that meditation music playing, and like, now turn to you thing, and then all of a sudden you hear something like, you're like, don't do that. That makes me giggle. But anyhow, before getting out of bed this morning, Ava was talking about how about going back to college for 2 years to get a PFA, a MFA, or whatever that is. Them college kind of people talk all that kind of stuff. Jill was thinking about going back to college for 2 more years too to become a nurse practitioner. And but Ava was talking about, because Ava makes a really good bit of money for one day's work, like when she goes to Vanderbilt or one of the universities and teaches students and doctors about trans people and stuff. And she's like, well, I don't know what I would, I don't want to lose that income and how I would be able to work and go to college full time and all. And I just told her out of the blue, I got so tickled. I said, well, I could buy myself a girdle and change my name to Myrtle. I said, I could fill in for you on those days. And then we both got to laughing so hard, pictured me as Mrs. Doubtfire, like, hello, students, this morning. Anyhow, I just find humor in everything. I miss Sammy making me laugh. My mama was a laugher also. So was my Granny Bratcher, her mama. But I have always been the best at making my own self laugh. I can just sit outside and just get to giggling and laughing, just like somebody else, like, look at him, his mind's bad, isn't it? Look at him sitting out there giggling, like just thinking about something maybe happened in church 20 years ago and just still find such giggling and humor in it. I know probably sometimes I push the boundary of my humor too far, because a lot of people just don't get humor. They don't find the funny in anything. Unlike me, I kind of find the funny in almost everything, And I love sarcastic. I'm actually kind of a sarcastic person. I know most people probably wouldn't admit that to other people, but I can be very sarcastic. And I try to clothe it in humor, sarcastic humor. At least once a week, someone will call and I'll answer the phone. I'll be like, A1 Blueprint Company. And they'll be like, do y'all make blueprints? And I'll be like, no, we sell donuts. We just kind of just thought it would be cool to call our company A1 Blueprint Company. Some people get it. Some people goes right over the head like, what a smart ass. Well, I'm a little bit of both. The other morning I stopped by the shop and Ava was talking to a longtime customer, Monica. And she's an older black lady who's, over the years, I've known her for 25, 30 years, and she's had her deal with men folks dating, and she's Pentecostal and churchy, and so she's real Holy Ghost filled, but yet she's always dating her a man. Anyhow, I walk in the shop, I'm like, girl, when did you get out of jail? And she busted out laughing, and then she said, Eddie, I need to ask you about this man I'm seeing now, and this and that and the other. And I told her, I said, well, first off, at your age, you need to go with that man to his doctor and have a serious conversation with that man's doctor about what kind of health is this man in. That's the main thing, because what you don't want to do at your age is become a hospital wife, where you're changing somebody's diaper and taking care of them because you had a little frolicking going on for like a year. And well, anyhow, we just had so much. We just laughed so hard about that. I said, "Cause I know you'll send him back to his family. You didn't sign up for all that." And even in the last days of my mama, when she was dying, there were moments where we would just bust out laughing. She told me one time in the middle of the night, she says, "Son, I'm just kind of afraid of dying." And I tried to be all, cause she's all churchy. I tried to quote David to her, and I said, "Mama, what are you afraid of dying for?" Psalm of David said, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear nothing." And Mama looked at me and just kind of scowled and said, "Well, I guess I'm no Psalm of David." And I stood there and looked at her, and then we just both busted out laughing because we realized how ridiculous it was that I would say that to her in her moment of being vulnerable. and how she but anyhow, and then we got so hysterical laughing. I'm like, I don't think none of us is like Psalm of David. Anyhow, then there was a church service one time where a lady, we used to have testimony service where this lady got up and during testimony service and asked the church to pray for Aunt Esther. She said she had just watched an episode of Sanford & Sons and Aunt Esther was not feeling well. And once I realized she was serious, I had to leave the pulpit and get somebody else to finish the next little bit. I'm like, how do you explain to anybody? None of that is real. What are you talking about here in the church? But it got me so tickled. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God. That was why I loved going to see Leslie Jordan. He was hysterically funny talking about being raised up in a Baptist church as a little gay boy. It's just so funny. Good Saturday morning, everybody. Beautiful, wonderful, sweet people. With all your flaws, with all your shortcomings, with all your fuck-ups, you're still sweet. You're still beautiful. You still bring a lot of joy and a lot of goodness into this world. So I bet Sammy has him cracking up on the other side. I hope he found my mama. The two of them couldn't sit together in church or they would just be giggling through the whole service. Pollen's already, y'all. It's getting going here in Atlanta. For those of you that follow me over on my Facebook page, there's a picture of me in 1972 holding my little car keys. You can't really notice it in the picture, but I'm holding car keys. In 1972, I was 17. I drove a 1965 Mustang. It was candy apple red with that little black leather top on it. And it had a 289 V8 engine in it. That little thing would hop up the highway with you. I lived with my mama at 2210 Burroughs Avenue in Lakewood. Not far from where I live right now. I worked at Georgia Blueprint Company down on the corner of Lucky and Spring Street in the heart of downtown Atlanta. The old downtown Atlanta. Worked there for years. 16 when I started, 17 when I took this picture. In 1972, as a 17-year-old, I loved to smoke pot. I loved to smoke Marlboros. Never was a drinker, but I loved pot and cigarettes. I loved riding around listening to Motown music. It was hard making love in that little Mustang, but when you're 17 and young, where there's a will, there's a way. Didn't have money for a motel, I know that. Life was good back then. Mama was good to me. We always laughed a lot. Love y'all.